We've done this a couple times. Am I on? I'm on. We've done this a couple times, and we just sat down and we thought, what can we share that would be valuable? Because we don't want to waste your time. And we've got some experience that's really, really good. And so what we thought we'd do is we will share a little bit about our story. We'll introduce ourselves a little bit more, share a little bit about our story, show you a little bit of our product, show what it does, kind of talk a little bit about how we did it. And then we want to kind of talk about, because of the business we're in with HR, and we have just tons of data that we look at all the time about you, about your demographic, what the workforce looks like, how businesses are structured today. We'll share some of that hopefully is really valuable to you. So we'll start, if you want to just introduce yourself and your family first. And then Ryan did graduate from BYU, but then he also went on to get his master's in organizational leadership from Gonzaga after we started the company, which is the worst time ever. So he's like, hey, I got to study, I can't work. No, just kidding, he didn't really say that. So he's definitely the smarter one of the two of us, but go ahead.
So Ryan Sanders, got a beautiful wife, 3 children. Oldest is a junior in high school. Just broke up with his girlfriend last night. A lot of drama there. First time ever. I'm like, dude, he says, it was so hard, Dad. I said, but it was the right thing to do. He said, yeah. But he said, but I broke her heart. And I said, dude, I know totally what it's like, because I was on the receiving of that, over and over and over again. So good times. But this is my little family. So Talmadge I talked about, and then Kylie, 13, Molly's 9. Molly's the beast of the family. She looks cute, but she's vicious. So been married almost 19 years.
Hold on. Molly's the boss. These two are afraid of her.
Yes, this is
That's
true.
That's why he says that. He says vicious, but with all the love of a father.
All the love.
Right.
So Lori and I met at the Elms. It was a great place to be, and I was her rebound. She broke it off with another guy, so it was good. So it happens, and I got lucky. So, came to BYU. Absolutely love this school. I could sit here and talk the whole time about how much my BYU experience meant to me. It was an amazing time. Almost everything went perfect outside of being put on probation with the Honor Code office for a short time. So anyway, that's me.
That's awkward.
I know.
Okay.
I won't tell you why.
I'm also a rebound. My wife's right here. She broke up. They'd hand-painted roses on the envelopes. I used those envelopes. They were awesome. So I also a rebound. The queen of 6, so my oldest, Ethan, he puts in his mission papers in about 2-3 weeks, turns 18 this summer, got accepted to BYU last Friday, which was good. Yeah. Adam's 15, Avalon is 12, Seth's 10, almost 11, Avery is 8, and Sean is just angry all the time, and he's 5. We met here. Our roommates were dating. I lived in a house on University with like 12 guys. One guy actually lived in the closet. I came home one day and said, hey, does anyone care if Doug lives in the closet? I said, no, Doug can live in the closet. He'd just roll out his pad, had his stuff hung up above, and so there were actually 13 guys because of Doug. But like Ryan, I came to these classes when I was at BYU, and I loved the lecture series. It was pretty new, so I was one of the first ones to graduate in entrepreneurship because it didn't really exist at the time. At least it wasn't as prevalent as it is today. And I just loved listening to people come in and tell stories about what they had done. And I usually would think, well, I'm probably not as smart as that guy, but I could work as hard. And so it wasn't like I'm going to go be an entrepreneur someday, but it was like I knew that I liked that and that I could do it if the opportunity arose. So what we thought we'd do after that is tell a little bit about our story. So we're talking about BambooHR. We've come before when we were at another company called Mingle Match. Mingle Match was started in about 2000. I started out of my house with my wife. We'd be up till 2 in the morning with our 2 little kids answering support emails, but it was online dating. It was online personals websites. So we started with LDS, Christian, Catholic, and Jewish. The intent was to provide a place where someone could go and it was clean, safe, and friendly, and they could meet people like them. And then we rolled out about 20 different verticals. We had single parent, we had deaf, we had Canadian, we had Indian, we had UK. So it was religious, geography, ethnicity, and special interest group. And I actually met Ryan at a company before that called mycomputer.com that became Omniture, that became Adobe. He was in product and I was in sales and marketing. And he was one of the first hires at Mingle Match, so we really grew that one together. We learned how to work together really, really well. That company sold in 2005. I left in 2006, and Ryan left in 2008. And Worst time ever to start a company. The economy in 2008 was a disaster, but I had convinced him and sold him on quitting a great job, making good money. For the first 3 years of BambooHR, we didn't pay ourselves a nickel, so it was tight. But when we decided to start a company, we didn't know we were going to start yet, and he just quit. And so we spent a lot of time in a room with a whiteboard, and I'll let him talk about it, but about the first week, it looked something like this. The next week, it looked something like this. And the third week, it looked something like this. So it was really hard. We went back and forth for about 3 months, and then why don't you go ahead and talk to that process?
So it was pure hell for the first little bit. No, we had a lot of different ideas. One of the things that was really important for us is that we wanted to do something that actually made a difference in the world. There were a lot of plays at the time where we could have done something with social, with just online advertising and things like that, but we ultimately didn't feel like that necessarily made a dent in the universe. And so we had to take a break for a little bit. I had to take a break for a little bit because we'd sat in the office for a long, long time, and we literally, in fact, we say this all the time at Bamboo about punching you in the face. We have to explain to people that it's not real. In fact, I've never punched anybody in the face ever. But if I did, he would be the guy I would punch.
Honestly, though, we did sit, and it wasn't like this. This is a joke, but there was a lot of pressure to hurry and decide something quickly, because there's pressure to be able to provide for our families, and we seriously just did so much brainstorming, and I've got screenshots of the whiteboards and all of the ideas that we had, and just we never felt good about anything. Nothing ever fit. And so he actually said, I'm going to go look at some side work, which was a good thing.
Ben says it wasn't real, but I have therapy bills to prove that it was real. So I took a little break. I was going to do some side work for a friend of mine that I'd done some web development stuff with him before. Asked him, said, hey, do you have any needs? I'd like to have some cash, pay some bills. And he said, yeah, absolutely. And so he gave me a list of stuff that got me really excited, because what we had done originally was actually just a online training database to track training for their employees. They had over 500 employees, multiple locations. They just needed to track training because most of them were recurring trainings, and the state mandated that those trainings had to always be up to date, otherwise their employees couldn't work. So a real need was there. But the stuff that he asked me for later was more along the lines of what we do today, which is he wanted more things related to HR. So I got really excited, called Ben, said, I think I've got an idea. He said, tell me what it is. I said, I'm not going to tell you yet. And so I wanted to dive in a little bit more just to find out if the need was real enough, if there were people who would actually pay money for it. I know one of Ben's strengths is that when he goes deep, he goes really deep. He understands the numbers. He understands markets. He's exceptional in that way. And I didn't want to waste his time if it wasn't a good idea.
The other thing about starting a company, and the reason I left other companies and how we had it at Mingle Match, this is the result. We actually figured something out that worked really well. So we were happy at the end of all this. One of the focuses was this. So we don't believe that personal life supports work life. We believe that work life supports personal life. In fact, I hate the term work-life balance. To me, it's just balance in life. A large part of life is work. And neither of us had the desire. In fact, I joke now, our goal is, hey, let's set up a company so it can be like my dentist neighbors who only work 3.5, 4 days a week, and then we can just play on Fridays. And that hasn't proven true, but we wanted to have that balance because I wanted to be a soccer coach, a t-ball coach, wanted to play with my kids. This 70, 80-hour work week, I did not believe in. I'd done that, and that wasn't something that we wanted to have as part of our culture. So there was real alignment around what we wanted to create for ourselves. It wasn't let's go out and make as much money as we can and raise as much money as we can and spend as much money as we can to grow as fast as we can. It was how do we build a foundation that will support our personal lives, that will support what we wanted to do as dads and as husbands and as sons and just as neighbors and friends and just serve. And so please know it's not that we feel strongly that the money came because of the focus on balance. And we'll talk more about that as we go. So I'll talk a little bit about BambooHR right now. So we'll dive a little bit into the product, and then we're going to kind of talk about you guys. So BambooHR, we've more than doubled every year since we've been around. We have over 7,000 clients and growing, and that's worldwide. So 11 languages, 100 plus countries where we have subscribers, and we're at 275 employees and growing. And I don't know, by the end of the year, I assume we'll have around 350, and I expect closer to 10,000 clients. So this didn't happen overnight. The real growth has really happened in the last 3 or 4 years. And BambooHR, well, you talk about the name and where that came from. But we kind of feel like we've grown like that. In fact, why don't you just talk about where Bamboo
Yeah,
came
so
from?
when we first launched, we called ourselves Human Services HQ. It's got a nice ring to it, right?
Horrible.
That was Ben's name that he chose.
It was. It's my fault.
The reason for that is we were trying to focus specifically on the human services niche. So adult daycare facilities, people with disabilities. There are companies out there that support those individuals with work, with care, and other things. And so that's where the training kind of idea came from. But a year into it, my wife said, "How's the HR HQ, whatever you're doing, going?" That's a year into this thing, right? So if my wife couldn't remember the name, I didn't think that anybody could remember. So I came in and talked to Ben and said, "Hey, let's pick a new name." My wife can't remember it. Nobody returns your phone calls when you sell, and so let's go figure it out. So we hired a firm back east to help us come up with a new name, and so they have a great process for thinking through all the elements of picking out a great name for a company or for a brand. And the first rev of the stuff that we picked one particular name, it turned out that there was a competitor in the space, and so we did another rev, and BambooHR came up, and I loved it. And Ben's like, "Meh, that's not very good." And so we did round 3. BambooHR was still scored the highest. And the thing that I love about Bamboo is that it's useful, it's versatile, it's been around for years. It grows fast. In fact, there are some really cool stats about bamboo. Usually, in the first 3 years, when you plant bamboo, nothing happens above the surface. In fact, everything happens below the surface where the rhizomes are shooting out to create the root structure. Well, after year 3, that's when you see bamboo shoot up. And there are literally hundreds of species of bamboo. And in one particular species of bamboo, at its peak growing season, it will grow 48 inches in a 24-hour period. You can hear it and almost see it grow. And so for us, Ben said we didn't pay ourselves for the first 3 years. It was really, really tough for the first 3 years. So that was rhizomes, right? And then afterward is where we started to see some wins.
Here are some of our clients. This is tech heavy. We do have a strong position in the tech community, but we have clients. We've got a daycare center in Baltimore with like 15 locations. We have a catering company in Texas and a private ambulance firm. But tech, this is kind of our wall of fame, so to speak, but I'm sure you'll recognize a bunch of those companies. This is fun for us because it validates our product, right? So product dominance is very important to us. It's a lot easier to sell a product that wins, that's the best product. So there's really a heavy emphasis and a focus on customer satisfaction and making sure that the software, that it does what it's hired to do, so to speak. So this is a fun one. This is an example of what the HR world looks like, right? So on the left-hand side, you'll see HR core administration. You'll see talent management and talent acquisition. So on the top, you've got sourcing, recruiting and onboarding, performance and succession, training, learning management, time and attendance, payroll benefits, tax, compliance, and recognition and rewards. Each one of these is its own unique industry with 100 or more, way more vendors within each category, and they're all billion-dollar markets globally, right? And it's a fragmented, complex mess. And they're different if you're selling on the small end of the market versus the mid-market versus enterprise. And our focus is on between 20 and 1,000 employees, which we define as small business. So small to medium business, but the very, very low end of a medium-sized business. You'll see BambooHR's logo here. This was done by some analyst working for some big VC firm, but they mess it up every time because we actually have product and services in almost all of these categories. In fact, they have us right here in payroll. We just launched payroll 2 weeks ago. So it's hard to know, and a lot of these you'll see rollover in the different areas. So it's really easy to not be disciplined about the product that you're building. It's really easy to say, oh, we're going to do 401k, we're going to do benefits and online enrollment. It's easy to lose focus of what kind of the most important things are, because if you're building software, you can pretty much build anything, right? So this is what we started as, core HR. And our whole focus was to provide an experience for companies that focused on the employee and the employee experience. That was what was most important to us. You want to talk a little bit more about kind of the product and rolling out and the philosophy behind it?
So fundamentally, the employee record is the key piece of this. And you'll see around this circle kind of the spokes on this hub and spoke model of onboarding e-signatures, mobile performance management, audit trail, PTO. Those are kind of the key things we started with. Later we added applicant tracking. Ben mentioned we just launched payroll, and then benefits is another piece that's got highlighted in blue a little bit around that circle, because one of the things that's really tough is in a market like this is trying to figure out where do you want to get up to parity with the product that you provide, or where do you want to partner, or where do you want to stay away from completely, because it can be a distraction from what you're doing.
So if you said who are your competitors, the first thing we would say is payroll. Companies like Paychex, ADP, Paycom, Paycor, PayChoice, Pay whatever. But they started as a payroll firm, right? So the architecture, their core product is around payroll. So what they'll do, ADP will go out and buy 100 plus companies, and they'll just continue to bolt on that software. But we've started as Course, which this is a huge differentiating factor for BambooHR, where now we're able to layer on these other offerings, but because it has the employee in mind, the employee experience is a lot better with BambooHR than others. So we'll just show you some product real quick. So this is an example of our onboarding tool. So being able to, in fact, I have a brother that took a job, and it took 3 weeks about for him to get us all his paperwork signed. So we have e-signatures, you get the new hire packet, you can do it on your mobile phone, sign your documents, fill out your W-2, all that information, and they can control what happens from the background checks, confidentiality agreement, benefit enrollment, et cetera, and it just rolls through the process quickly. I actually got an email this morning that said we have a new employee. I know where she's from, I know who she's working with, I know who her manager's gonna be, and when she walks in, I can say, hey, Larissa, nice to meet you. And so it just accelerates and accommodates that employee, kind of that ramping period. This is what it would look like to the employee, right? So here's what your first day looks like, here's where you're gonna go, here's what you're gonna do, and again, it just accelerates that whole process, makes them feel incredibly welcome because they are. We value them, we want them to feel that. I'm gonna talk to this one a little, right?
Yeah, so this is performance management. If you've ever participated in performance reviews at the end of the year, it can be really difficult because basically you don't talk to your manager for a whole year. You have goals that are set for you to achieve those over the year. You don't talk about them all year long, and then you have a bonus that depends on whether or not you did anything, but your manager never followed up, never had conversations, never moved on those projects. We tried to turn employee performance on its head a little bit, where it's actually a frequent conversation with your manager, so there's no surprises, right? If things are going well, the employee knows what they're doing well. If they need to improve, they know where they need to focus. And then this view right here is just an idea, a way to see where your team members are as far as a different, are they an engaged achiever? And if so, then how can we help them succeed? If they're not, if they're kind of checked out, then we know that we can spend some time helping them succeed and helping them grow. So this is a report that either HR could use or managers could use to help their employees progress.
You know, these are performance reviews are basically broken. I remember a call. It was a hospital in Buffalo, and their performance was 27-page document that they had to fill out, and they just don't work. So the frequency of the conversation, really all we want to do with performance is take away the game, take away stack ranking. People don't know how to do anyway. Take out all of the bias. Really, what you want to find out is the person feel valued? Are they doing things that are creating value for both you and the company? And kind of where they fit on this. One of my favorite questions is, what would you do if this person were offered another job, right? It's like, oh, I'd do anything I could to keep them, thus they're a rock star, or I wouldn't care if the door hit them on the way out. But one of the complaints has always been that, hey, at the end of the year, we haven't even talked about my goals. We talked about it at the beginning of the year, and then we just got busy, and we never talked about it again. So the frequency of that is really, really important. We spent a lot of time studying for this. This is really outside of kind of a core Bamboo product, right, which is really operational, takes care of the administrative tasks, and this makes what HR does more strategic. So if you ask HR, just, hey, did you go into HR to run payroll? It's like, no, I got into HR because I want to help people grow. So this allows them to get rid of all the transactional, time-consuming crap that they have to do and really focus on growing people. So this has been a really fun one for us. This is the new payroll module. I don't know if you see this very well, but again, we rolled this out a couple weeks ago, and it's another fun one. So as you look at this, as we stage these product rollouts, it's been really important, that product dominance, to do it right, to be patient. And where kind of Ryan and I run the company, and we don't have some VC guy telling us what to do. We do have some financial partners, but we control everything. So it's not like you guys got to run, you got to triple your revenue, you got to hire fast, you got to do all these things. It's like, no. We decide, right? We get to control the pace. In fact, there was a time about 2 years ago when we modeled out everything, we decided, hey, we could actually hire 80 sales reps right now, and we have enough in the market, enough room in the market to just blow it out. We look at all the money, right? It's so fun forecasting. Look at all those dollars. But actually executing to get those is different. And we decided, no, that doesn't make sense. There's no need to hire 80. Look what that would do to our culture and the quality of life that we enjoy now for both us and our team. So it didn't make any sense. Culture eats strategy for breakfast, operational excellence for lunch, and everything else for dinner. Peter Drucker. We actually feel that, I feel that culture is strategy. So you think about the most important thing, and the number one, you can copy anything. You talk about innovation, you can go out and you can copy pretty much anything at any other company anytime. And you can do it faster than ever before because of the advances in tech. So what's that number one thing at every company that no other company can copy? Help me out. People, right? Your culture. So this is why this is so critical for us. We have deliberately engineered it. We talk about it all the time. All of our company meetings, we talk about it. We talk about how we behave, how we communicate, those things that matter. And so you'll see companies that have these corporate values, right? It's like, oh, our corporate values are this. They're very aspirational. But a lot of times they've just copied them. In fact, when you walked in, I don't know if you've heard of Enron. Anyone not heard of Enron? Who's heard of Enron? Right? You walk in the lobby of Enron and they've got all their integrity, honesty, all those values on the wall, right? And the guys are in jail. So these things are really, really important, and we definitely live them. The result of that is this. You want to talk to the?
I don't know
you know
what to say. This one.
Ryan talks a lot. I have to
I'm really introverted.
He is huge.
I'm the introverts unite separately in your own homes. So
the result of the culture is a lot of awards, right? So the most recent one that we're proud of is this one, and these aren't awards that you buy. This is where they will survey our employees, and our employees are able to give feedback anonymously and share. This is a recent one that we just won in 2017. So these are national. We used to be a small business, and we won the small business one, and now we've won the larger business one for top company cultures. This matters. I mean, if you think about the turnover costs, especially with your demographic, where LinkedIn studies said that by the time you guys are 32, you'll have had at least 3 different jobs. For your whole career, you'll have as many as 15, right? So, in fact, if you think of customer lifetime value, right, where you focus how long are we going to keep these customers, because every month longer is more profit for us. Think about that in terms of an employee. The longer that an employee stays at a company, the much more valuable they become to the company, and the more reason the company should invest in keeping that. So this is really an investment, a very financial investment as well. That's not the purpose, but it's a great outcome of it. The other result is in the way that we behave and the expectations that we have of people is that the product is exceptional. So we win all of these products award. This one was a fun one. You know, we did just all of a sudden this writer at PC Magazine just started writing about us. We're like, this is awesome. We hadn't even talked to him. We're starting to show up in winning all of these awards. So this is very validating from the culture standpoint, that our culture, the output of our culture, is this type of a product experience. Again, I don't want to harp on it too much, but even from the smallest startup, from your goals and why you do it, and being able to answer those questions, why are we doing this? What do we want to create? Culture matters from the beginning, from the very, very beginning. You can't fake it. Employees can read through it. A lot of companies give lip service to it, but usually it's just BS, and everybody knows it, and so they have a very toxic and horrible culture.
Do you have a slide on how your employees do culture? What are the key elements?
Let's go through them. Yeah, we're going to hit every one. You want to start with this one?
So one of the things we were really grateful that we did early on was identify some core values, the things that really matter to us. And these were the things that were fundamental, would never change, no matter what our goals were, no matter what the vision was, no matter what the mission was. This stuff stays constant. And so we have a few of these here. First one is enjoy quality life. This speaks to the work-life balance that Ben talked to, or the life balance, as he likes to put it. So the idea that we don't work, we don't live to work, we work to live, right? It's that idea of there are things that are way more important outside of work. For us, it's specifically family and church service and other things like that. So enjoy quality life is a key part of that.
We had a great hire early on, and the company where he was, they wouldn't let him go to his brother's graduation. And that kind of a thing just Makes me mad. Next one. Kyson, can you help me out? This isn't clicking again. You want to do it manually? Let's try now. Oh, there we go. Grow from good to great. How many of you have read the book or heard of the book, Good to Great? We love the idea of learning and growth, and it just feeds into kind of the bamboo Zen-like kind of vibe that we were looking for. We want to learn, we want to grow, we want to progress. We don't feel that we know everything. In fact, you'll in your studies and your business cases, you'll look at all these best practices. I kind of hate best practices. Someone will say, oh, we should do this because it's a best practice. It's really best principles, not best practices. So what are the principles of that case study that you can draw out and apply to your own company? The principle here of growing from good to great is that we're always growing, that we're always learning, and you never know everything, and kind of an aspect of humility to this as well. Next one.
Assume the best. This one is really interesting. So sometimes you might be in a situation at work where somebody does something or says something to offend you. And we believe firmly that the number one problem in business is communication, or rooted in communication. So think of misunderstandings, think of missed goals, think of missed opportunities. It usually comes down to communication. And this is a critical one. So if I'm in a meeting and Ben says something that's really offensive, I can just be mad and go home and say, I hate Ben's guts. That's not a good example. Let me try a different one. No, just kidding.
That's the most frequent. That's the most frequent one.
But what we try to teach and what we try to encourage is that idea of having crucial conversations, of having me, even I'm the one that's been offended, or I'm the one that has misunderstanding of what he's even thinking. To sit down with Ben and then say, Ben, what did you mean by this? What did you mean when you said this? Because it came across like this. Is that what you meant? 9 times out of 10, it's going to be, no, that's not what I meant at all. And it solves everybody a lot of headache and a lot of problems if you'll come in and assume the best, but still have that conversation. That conversation is critical in helping overcome the challenges that you have as a business.
This really talks to speed as well, right? I mean, you're in a hyper-competitive market. You've got all kinds of companies that are just aiming for you and you're competing with. You don't have time for the petty crap that comes up because someone gets offended because of miscommunication. So it's like this, assume the best is this freedom to understand that politics aren't accepted here, that we do things for the right reasons, and that we're going to dive in and have that conversation to make sure that we're doing it for the right reasons. So this is one of my favorite. The next one is kind of goes along with it, which would be open. You are free to be open. You're free to tell me, hey, that is wrong, and here's why I think that is, and have a conversation where that's not going to be offensive to me. In fact, it's expected. And we hired a guy, and we told him this during the recruiting process, and it was some of the best feedback we love from employees when they validate our culture and our values, is he went to a meeting of developers. And developers, if you know, they've got strong opinions about everything, right? And so they're gonna say, no, it's this way or it's that way. And he's in there with all these developers, and they're like calling each other out and saying, no, that's wrong, or I disagree. And he's just like, wow, because he'd never been in that environment before, where you are just free to speak your mind and it's expected.
So do the right thing is simply about making sure we always do the right thing for each other as team members, for employee, or for partners, and also for our customer. Ultimately, it's hopefully basic, right? You do want the honesty and integrity on the wall, but this is hopefully a reminder that we always keep those things in mind. And this is just a basic principle for life in general, of course. Lead from where you are. This is one I love. I love this one because often we'll find that people step into a role and then 3 months later they say, I'm ready for a promotion. I've only been here 3 weeks, but I would like to be a director of whatever it is, and I would like a raise for about $100,000 raise. But what happens is sometimes people feel like they have to have authority to lead. But what we're talking about here is making sure you lead by influence. And if you guys have participated in tons of different class projects and things like that, it's really hard when you don't have authority. But if you learn to lead by influence, then that's really what ultimately makes the world go round in business. And so we love this idea of leading from where you are, because you don't have to have the title, you don't have to have the role. You can be the new person and still lead out. And it doesn't have to be in an offensive way or an aggressive way, but it can be in a way that really helps build the team and draws everybody together and helps you achieve your goals.
Yeah, it's interesting. We'll interview millennials and others, and they'll say, well, what do you want? They're like, I want to be a manager. Like, everybody wants to be a manager. Well, we can't. Everyone can't be a manager. So how do you create opportunities to learn and grow where it's not, I have this expectation of being a manager? So I'm gonna help you, right? Here's the question that you should ask is, how can I add more value, right? Not, hey, I want to be a manager so I can have the title, but how can I add more value? I've got this covered. Look what I've done. I've hit my capacity, or I've passed, this is easy. I feel like I'm at a glass ceiling. I feel like I can do more. So how can I add more value? How can I add more value to the company? Because you come in my office and ask, hey, how can I add more value versus, hey, I really think I should be a manager now. Those are totally different conversations. So this one is definitely valuable and it feeds into that, hey, we want to grow, we want to learn. It's like no matter what your role is, you can still learn and grow because it doesn't end. And this is the most recent one.
Move faster too.
Yep, we're going to go faster.
So make it
So
count.
this means make it count. Next? No,
All right,
just
good.
kidding.
Do it.
Let's do this one real quick. You want to talk to this? So what's the key to success at BambooHR?
So one of the things that I love when people ask during interview process or for people who are team members trying to progress is, what does it take to succeed at BambooHR? We talk about three things in general, and you'll see them captured in the values. One is humble, one is honest, and one is hardworking. The humble is that learner's mentality. If you're not reading, learning, growing, and progressing, then it's real hard to succeed at Bamboo. Second is honest. That one should be very obvious, but it's sometimes hard to do in today's world. And then hardworking. It's one of those ideas of, at Mingle Match, in fact, I remember specifically we found an invoice that was printed out off on the printer, and I showed it to Ben, and I said, well, do you know who this is? And he says, no, it wasn't an invoice for a vendor. It wasn't an invoice we were sending out. And we found this employee and said, hey, is this yours? And she said, yeah. And we said, well, what's going on? She says, well, I don't have enough work to do, so my husband and I manage an apartment complex, and so I was just doing invoices on the printer and on company time. So we were going crazy because there's a million things that we could have had help with. So that hardworking element. One of my favorite things is you've seen the show Robots, maybe? See a need, fill a need. You guys remember that? That idea of see a need, fill a need is really critical. And so those are three key things that I think help people succeed at Bamboo.
You hit this one too.
Yeah, so we ask our managers as well to define what is expected at Bamboo. What is the base level of contribution that we expect you to make in your role? And then we ask them to define the exceptional. And the reason that we do that is because we believe firmly that people desire to do great work. And unless you define what great work looks like, it might be hard to do. There might be misalignment, miscommunication, missed expectations. And so we have both of these defined, and what we strive for constantly is the exceptional. And we are constantly amazed at how much people will reach for that exceptional. Now note that it doesn't mean you spend more time or more hours in the office or working late at night, but it does mean that you'll do the right things, you'll focus on those right things and then get those done.
Let's dive into a little bit about what we see that's a big problem. So this is a slide that Ryan created for one of our company meetings. We talk about focus, and we talk about execution, and we talk about the things that distract us. And this is a big problem. And it's not just for millennials that you guys get nailed with all the time of you're addicted to your cell phones and social media and those things. It's everybody has a problem with this. So if you have a problem, I promise you this is going to affect your work. And if you have a problem with this and you have it take it into the workforce, and then you also want to be a manager and you're also asking those questions asking the wrong questions, so to speak, this is going to be a problem for you. We can talk more about that, but just go read the studies. They're all over the place. So focus is hard for everybody anyway, but this stuff just magnifies those problems. All right, I'm going to talk just real quick. I'll fly through this. This is actually the part that I think is most valuable to you so that you can understand what the workforce looks like right now. About 11,000 baby boomers retire every day, right? The cost of replacing an employee is between 90 and 200% of their annual salary. Millennials. In a couple years, 75% of the workforce will be millennials. 66% of millennials expect to stay with your company fewer than 5 years. I think that's actually changed. I think it's closer to 3 now. If you think of all of the knowledge and the leadership and the experience that is leaving the market every day, it's phenomenal. So learning and development and training is critical. Contingent workforce, a lot of you are going to work from home, and it's just growing and growing and growing, and it's not going to stop. 52% of you guys expect to work independently, 82% in emerging markets, right? So if you think about what the workforce looks like, it's changing faster and faster every year that goes by. There is a huge talent deficit, It is an employee's market, so to speak, because we cannot find talent fast enough. I think the software is like something like 2 million software jobs. There's a gap of that many. So this is a huge war for talent. Especially in Utah, has some of the highest employment rates in the nation. So you are at an advantage. You are needed. There are jobs out there. Other dynamics: limited tenures. People are working less than ever. The shrinking shelf life and knowledge of skills. I believe for a developer, 2.5 years is the half-life of what you know. For other job roles, it's about 5 years. So every 5 years, and it's speeding up, half of what you know is no longer applicable, right? Huge skills gap. This demand is changing. Millennials care. I kind of have this contrarian view of millennials, though. I read an article in the Wall Street Journal that said, hey, you need to take one job and you need to split it up into 3 positions so millennials can feel like they're progressing. I thought, that doesn't make sense to me. Millennials bring so much good, so much innovation, so much tech knowledge, and they desire to grow, and they add tons of value to culture. Let's take all of the good, but if it's applicable to a millennial, it's applicable to everyone at the company. So what are those good principles that apply to all employees, and how do you engage those employees in the right way to define what your culture is going to look like for everyone, right? A lot of workplace distractions, a lot of studies. So here are some other things. There's an awesome article, if you're interested in organizational behavior, in the New York Times by someone from Google. It's called Project Aristotle. So if you look up New York Times, Project Aristotle, you'll read about all the studies they're doing around what makes a team function. Because the traditional hierarchy of a business is disappearing, and everyone's working in teams, and they're faster, right? So these are a bunch of the issues that are in the workforce that you guys will deal with. This matters. A lot of companies have the foosball table, the game rooms, etc. You need to decide where you want to go. What are the things that matter most? In some places they work, and others they're just there to entice you. But then it's they're artifacts. They're artificial artifacts, and they're not real. You really don't care about those things. What you care about is meaningful work. Strategic opportunities from the tech world, from where we live. These things are all huge opportunities. If you're looking at businesses, if you're looking at companies that are growing, all of those matter and are growing. You just need to know that companies can't even keep up with implementing the latest rev of a piece of software because software development is happening so fast. Stories, we got a couple, but how much, Steve? We have 5 minutes left. I was going to tell you a story about pandas. I bought a panda costume from China and surprised him. He was really, really mad because pandas eat bamboo, so pandas are the enemy of bamboo, so we still fight about this one. We don't have time to tell the story. This is really important. Focusing on what matters most. It's so easy. Clayton Christensen wrote that book, how to measure your life, kind of a thing. Deciding right now what you want to do, it's a slippery slope. It's really easy to get caught up in the dollars. All your roommates are really aggressive, doing great things, they're going different places, doing these things. But what matters most to you? And what are those things that are the most important? So, Ben, you got that? I'm guessing you got that. One more slide. We're going to take advantage of something. So one of the things...
we're hiring.
Yeah, we're hiring. That's the last thing. We're hiring, yeah. We are hiring.